Hello, this is Mark Tucker, and we are here to wrap up, so to speak, our final video on how to create a badge wrapper component for Alexa presentation language. When we finished up the last video, then the wrapper component is already created. And one of our components, the last one here on the screen, the vector, has been wrapped with that badge wrapper and is showing a badge. What we need to do now is the first three components that we've got here need to be wrapped, and we need to set properties, and we'll talk about how to use the badge wrapper component from a user of the component perspective. So this could be a scenario where somebody points you to the badge wrapper and you just include it in your project, and now how do you set properties and customize it, and in the end then things are going to go ahead and look like what we see on this screen here. So the first thing, as we can see, is that the vector is using default values, and if we were to remove the contents so that the badge text was an empty string, it goes away. And that's because we have that OR condition that we need to show this where there needs to be a value in badge text, or we need to have the show badge always value set to true. So we're going to go ahead and swap that out for that. So now that badge is always going to be there. And we're going to go ahead and change the positioning and the size and the background color of the badge to match what our final mock-up here is. So go ahead and save that, and see, we've got what we're looking for right there. Let's talk a little bit about positioning. So we want this in the top right corner. Right now the values are 6 and 14. Let's see what happens when we set those to 0. So you might like the way that things are positioned, or you might want to control them. And so from the top, as we add values, see, it starts moving down. So there's 10, there's 20, there's 30. So that's how that positioning works. So typically I start with these values set to 0 for whatever corner I want it to be in, and then I start playing with this top and right or left and bottom, whatever values. So we're going to go ahead and set that back to 6. And then let's go ahead and start with what happens when things are moving from the right. So it starts moving over towards the left. So 10, 20, 30. So that's how that positioning works, and 14 was the value that we had for that. So we're done with that first component, and now what we want to do is we want to wrap the frame and the Alexa icon button and the Alexa button. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I've got the completed properties settings over here in this other file. But I haven't changed any of the components, the base components, as they're here. I've just wrapped them and set some properties. So now, noticing, I'm not exactly sure why. First of all, that button started up here at the top, or why now adding that to the component has put it in the right place. But that's for another day to figure out. But notice that we've got things set up just like in the end, so let's go through and understand how each of these things work. And let's go ahead and go in reverse. So the next one up from this vector, which is completed, is this frame. So we've got a frame, and its color is blue, and then what we've added is a badge text of the letter A that starts in the bottom right. We've set the size and the color here to this green color. Now the default font color and border color is white, but unless you set this border width, then the border doesn't show. So that's without the border, and that's with the border. So that's how the border works, and we've changed the radius from the 25, which would make it into a circle. We've got that just to 10, and we can kind of play around with that value how we want. And we've also changed the font size. So that's how what we've set to make that one work. So that was the frame that we wrapped, and now the Alexa icon button. So this is going to start in the bottom left, so in this case I'm using top left, but just to kind of show you how you can do things with this. So that's starting up here, and you can go, 10, 20, or you could switch this to bottom, right? And start off with 0 and start down, and then start increasing the value from the bottom. So those are both ways to do the same type of thing. I'm just going to go ahead and switch that back to what it is in our final example, though probably badge bottom is probably a better approach. But let's see. So there's the color of it. And in this case, we're setting the text color and the border color to the same thing as this frame that we have as the whole background. And that's why it kind of looks like we've cut a little piece out of it. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go through and cycle through some of these screen different sizes. There, that's a little bit bigger. This is that's the TV. TV's kind of a weird one, so we'll switch. There's the spot. That's pretty good. All right, so you notice as we cycle through some of these things, the positioning fits pretty well and keeps things going, and you can kind of see this border here, how it takes that little notch out of the icon button. So those are the different values that we set there. Nothing really that different with that. The last one, which is a little problematic, and maybe you noticed it as we cycled through this, is that the Alexa button itself changes size quite a bit different compared to these other ones. So like, notice how the height here is kind of about the same as the height here, and the width, and just how big things are. But then watch as we cycle through some of these things. So here's the Echo Show 1, the Echo Show 8. They're all smaller, but that's still pretty relatively sized. And notice how the badge positioning works right, and the size of the font and everything kind of just works. And that's partly what we get with the device independent pixels. So everything looks really pretty good until we get to this, which is the TV. And it still, still looks okay. The size here of the badge relative to the button seems to be about the same, but notice how much different size that button is compared to these other ones. And that's just the way that things work. TV seems to be a little bit different. And so the only thing that's different here, we're setting the text as 10, and we're setting the font size and the badge size in the top right. But what we've ended up having to do is add this conditional, or this conditional check here, where it does this logic and says, if the viewport that I'm currently on is the TV landscape extra large, which corresponds with this view here, then I'm going to use this value as 15 as opposed to on all the other screens use it as 30. And it seems like cutting it down to about half what these other values are seems to do about right. There's probably some formula or some additional tampering around that we can do to figure that out. But that's kind of where things are with that, and that's where there's some conditional or particular logic here. We could investigate, I guess, into moving these checks actually inside the component itself, so we wouldn't have to do it. But I like surfacing it out here where we have complete control over what's going on. So that is it. We have our component done, and it's working on different screen sizes. It's looking good. We have enough configurability in it. So it's looking really nice. I'd like to just take a moment again to thank Alexander Martin for making such a great APL Ninja tool. This has just been really easy to work through and show. I've been able to look at other people's code, and that's helped me learn what I've learned up to this point, and still learning. And just hopefully that you can take this code and either use the badge itself in your own component, or you can start understanding how to make your own custom components. They don't all have to be wrapper components. And you can just also take some time and share the source code. So just wanting to give back myself from the things that I've learned and everybody who's helped by posting up here on APL Ninja, and that's why I wanted to go ahead and post this completed code here for anybody to use. But hopefully this series of videos have been helpful, and I'd love to see what you're building and working on APL, and continue to expand how useful this is. Thanks again also to Amazon and the Alexa team for continuing to advance APL. Thank you.